Hi everyone, my name is Ivan. I'm currently working as a motion graphic designer, and this is my first time that I've been to Kuching. And the reason why I said yes to this trip is because I want to be part of what God is doing in Kuching, to be a blessing to the local communities, to serve a different kind of group of students in Sarawak. Overall, the trip exceeded my expectation. The first night we were hosted by the teachers, and we got to try very interesting food. Food that we cannot find in KL. We got to try the oyster pancake and also milim, their locally grown veggie. It was very interesting because I've never had anything like that before. Other than that, interacting with the students was out of my expectation as well, because they were very responsive, and they were very eager to participate in whatever we have in stock for them, all the sessions and all the games that we have prepared for them. My personal highlight is that we got dragged by Pastor Anand to the river to swim. We didn't want to do that at first, but he kept pushing us, and in the end we actually had a lot of fun, just swimming along with the current. The water is freezing cold, we get to jump into the river, and until even some of us fell sick because of how cold the water was. And it was a very interesting experience. Throughout the whole trip, I think I experienced God in a very different way, because honestly we didn't have much time to prepare. The session, the games, everything just felt very rushed for me, and it kind of also forces me to rely on God, knowing that He's already at work in the camp, and my job is to host His presence and to do whatever I can, to prepare myself. My personal challenge to those listening is that I will encourage you to give it a try. It's a very interesting experience because you get to serve in a different capacity from what you are used to in church, and you never know how God will use you to bless the people there.
Hi everyone, my name is Annabelle, and I just completed my studies, which was why I decided I wanted to use my free time doing something beneficial and also something new where I could also serve others and be a blessing, which is why I decided to go for this Kuching trip to serve other high school students. And at first I didn't know what to expect because we will be in such different living conditions, but in the end it was all really fun and rewarding. And even on the first day itself, we got to do so much sightseeing. We went to the waterfront bridge, which was really pretty at night. We went to the different malls and ate so much kolomi. I don't think I've ever eaten so much kolomi in my life, but it was really good. And even on the first night we had such a good dinner where we were hosted by a really nice family, and we basically had a whole restaurant to ourselves. And there's this dish that I really liked, which is called mani chai, which is a fried dish made with egg and also sayur manis, and the oyster there is 10 times better than KL. And even the next day when we went to camp, it was so nice meeting about 100 of the kids there and just being able to interact with them. And also they were so open during the sessions. They were always so engaging and responsive, especially when we sang songs, and it was just really refreshing to see. And I think one of the highlights for me were, I was afraid of the language barrier since we had to teach the kids foreign language, but even through it all, the kids were so understanding and so helpful. Even when we were stuck with words, they would help us, and I could just really see God working in their lives, that God is always on the lookout for open and hungry hearts. And I believe that although camp was only 3 days, I know that God's love will already impact them for their life ahead, and also be faithful to rise up bold leaders for their generation. And I think just an encouragement for anybody watching is that don't be afraid to try something new and unfamiliar, because it's in those moments where you'll experience God's guidance and grace, when your heart is willing. And also to those who have not experienced serving in a different capacity far away from home, I really encourage you to step out of your comfort zone, and you will really see God work through you when you obey and trust in Him.
Hi, my name is Emily, and I'm working in the fintech industry, and this is actually my first time to Kuching. Before I went to Kuching, my perception of the place was that I wouldn't be able to explore so many restaurants and cafes, and also I was a bit nervous about the language barriers that I had, because I've never taught in Bahasa Melayu before, and I think that it was going to be a challenge for me. So on the first day that we arrived, we actually went straight for our kolomi lunch, because that was something that I really wanted to try once I reached Kuching. And after that, we managed to get our groceries and necessities that we needed before we actually entered the village the next day. So towards the night, we were actually hosted by the locals. So they brought us to this really nice restaurant where we got to try the local delicacies such as the mani chai, and also I tried curry bamboo clams for the first time. So they were very hospitable with us, and they were very generous with the amount of food that they ordered also. Yeah, so the next day we actually took an hour drive to the campsite, where we actually ran a 3 days youth camp for a group of 100 of them. And during the first 2 sessions, we felt that they were starting to warm up, and actually towards the night, that was where I had to give my first EM workshop on how to do devotions. I thought initially I was very nervous because I've never taught in BM before. So towards the session, through the help of the Holy Spirit, managed to teach them fluently. And I think what inspired me from that session was that I gave them a task to memorize John 3:16 in BM, and I gave them 10 minutes to actually do so. And actually there were 2 of them who managed to memorize it perfectly within 10 minutes, and I was very amazed by their determination and just to be able to memorize the scriptures. Also during the day, we were given a period of time where we could actually explore the rivers. And initially we were all very hesitant to go in, but Anand wanted to go in, so we followed him, and that was honestly one of the best experience and a highlight for me in that trip, because I got to experience something that I couldn't in the city. And so we swam in the river. So one of the locals actually showed us how to jump into the river. Initially I was a bit scared because we don't do this often. Yeah, so as I took that leap, it reminded me that to have courage in the things that you do, and even if the river is like the unknown, but to always take that leap of faith and trust God that things will turn out okay. And that reminded me of that. And I had one of the best experience just jumping in and then following the river towards the other side. Yeah, that was a pleasant experience for me. And the other highlight that I got was that I think during the sessions we had worship before the teaching, and I think what stood out to me was the hunger that the locals had when they worship God, and God's presence was so evident in that place, and it was very thick. And what I was reminded of was that when 2 or 3 are gathered, like God really shows up as long as we have the hunger. And that inspired me to continuously want to hunger for God, to be able to experience more of His presence and more of His miracles in my life. I would challenge someone who is hearing this to always avail yourself, even though it's out of your comfort zone, or it may feel uncomfortable at the start. But as long as you say yes to God, He will use every yes for something greater. And I think surprises awaits you, and God will always come through even bigger for you.
Hello everyone, my name is Jajan. I'm currently working as a management consultant in the finance sector. So today I just wanted to share my recent experience to a trip to Sarawak. So it's just about a 30-40 minutes drive outside of Kuching town. This trip that we went together as a youth ministry, the purpose of this trip was to reach out to the high school kids in the district of Bao. So I think one of the reasons why I decided to go on this trip is really to be intentional to my calling, which was to reach out to the people outside of Malaysia and also outside of KL, where I come from. So of course, when this opportunity came about, I wanted to take advantage of it, so that I can also reach out to the people of Sarawak and also to sort of serve the community there, and to serve in a different capacity as well compared to what I do here in KL. So before I went on this trip, I thought it would be very much like the quote-unquote very mission trip like kind of trip where it was very good. It's going to be like a tougher living condition. The food will be very simple, and also there won't be much sleep, and it will just be constantly serving the community there. But I can really say my perspective of a mission trip has completely changed from this recent trip that I went to Bao. I think now I would really call it not a mission trip, but I would call it serving God in a different capacity, instead of calling it a mission trip like we used to call even when growing up days in church. So on the first day, I think what we did actually was I got to visit many tourist destinations, mainly around the Kuching riverfront. We walked about around the riverfront, and also we managed to buy a few local products, local produce. And also after that, we actually went on a dinner. We were hosted by the pastors and also the people in charge of the camp. We were hosted by them, and they brought us to a really nice dinner place, and we got to try some local delicacies like the bidin vegetables, the mani chai vegetables that you can only really find in East Malaysia, but you can actually find it here, but it's probably pricier, and also it won't be as good as compared to how they cook it over in Kuching. So honestly, I remember we were being fed so much throughout the whole trip, and also there was that night, on the first night, as I mentioned, the highlight was bidin mani chai, and also the main highlight for me was ojian, which is like fried oysters, but they cook it really differently. It's like you will never see in KL. It's like something specific that they cook it in Kuching only, or in East Malaysia maybe. I might just steal that recipe, honestly speaking. But yeah, to be honest, we were really blessed by the good food that were given to us, and also blessed to us throughout the trip. And the first night was really memorable for us as the six of us that we went to have this good food with the locals. And also I truly think that I gained some weight from this trip that we went. So the 3 days youth camp experience was really so much more better than I expected it to be. They made me feel like I was like the best Malay speaker in the room, even though I know what I said to the kids wasn't the best, as in the language, the Malay words that I used I was just trying to think a lot on the spot, and also I was trying to read my notes as well. So it was definitely broken Malay. I would say it wasn't the perfect Malay, the best Malay I've ever spoken. But one thing that stood out to me was that throughout my preaching or throughout my sharing, the kids were really attentive. The youth kids, they were really attentive to what I was sharing with them. Even there are times that I didn't know what to say, and as in like translate from the English word to the BM word, I would ask them, and they would actually try to translate for me on the spot, which I appreciate, because then I could actually use their words that they've helped me with to also share with the people there. I think my personal highlight really from this trip is to see how the youths were so eager to learn, and also so eager to learn the word, and also how obedient they were throughout each of the sessions that were being shared towards them. And also the other main highlight that I had was, I think for all of us that went, was the moment that we all jumped into the brown river, the brown cold river that we did not know where it came from, like as in because it was flowed from the top to where we were. So maybe someone could be out there showering, we don't even know. But the best part is that it's really diving into the unknown, and because we can't see what's at the bottom, and also how the river was just brown, like you see those kind of brown color river in KL. So that was the personal highlight for me, not knowing what's inside of the river and just jumping in the river without knowing. And also, of course, all the amazing good food that we had together as a group, and also we had together with the pastors and the locals over there together during the dinners and the lunches and the breakfast as well. I think for myself, the take back is from this trip is that God is always seeking the hungry hearts, and it was so evident during each of the session. The Holy Spirit was just so present throughout each session. Even on the first night, I remember sharing with, I think it was Ivan, that I could feel just the hunger in the room, and you could feel the Holy Spirit already working in the hearts of the high school kids in the camp. Even just before the session, during the praise and worship time, you could feel so much hunger and just love for God and the word that they were about to receive. I remember I could just sense the Holy Spirit moving in the midst of the kids, the high school kids. So the other thing was, my take back was that God really prepared the way for us throughout the whole camp. I can really say that there wasn't much of a hiccup or any problem that we really encountered during the trip. I can barely remember any problem that went, or anything that went wrong throughout the trip, and every step of the way was very smooth. Thank God for that. So I think, just to summarize just to close what I've shared today, I think for one I just want to challenge each of you that's listening today to remove the stigma of what a mission trip looks like. As I mentioned at the start, we are there to serve God in a different capacity from where we are currently serving, wherever we're at. I think whoever I'm sharing this to today, I think we should try to look at we try to remove the stigma of mission trip, and to view it as how we are serving God in a newer, in a different capacity. And it is not how you picture a mission trip to be, in my opinion. I love every moment of it and left really feeling fulfilled, seeing the high school kids encountering God, and also receiving all the love from the people and the teachers, and also of course from us, and the gifts we bought from them, just to see their joy of receiving the simplest of things like snacks and just like lollipops and all that. It's just a joy to see, and feeling very fulfilled leaving this trip towards the end of the day. I think the main thing is that from this trip you get to really learn new cultures. You get to encounter people that you don't really meet often in back in KL, for example. And also, of course, the culture, the food, and the people. These are the things that you get to learn from them, and also get to encounter for yourself during this trip. So I would like to challenge those that are listening today to be open, and also to, of course, give it a try in the future. You never know how God will come and meet you, and also how God will use you in these kind of trips in the future. So I challenge you I challenge you, whoever listening today, to put your hands up on the next trip, and also have an open heart to listen to God, and to listen to God, and also to have this encounter and have this learning journey for yourself. Thank you.